What's good, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks from the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast, and I got my co-host with me, Rebellious D and Trav. How you fellas doing today?
Chilling.
Swell, man. Swell.
Yo, I thought when you started talking, didn't it look like D was gonna like flex or something?
It did
Nah,
look like he
man.
was
It
going to.
did. I thought he was about to flex.
He was about to flex on us.
Oh shit.
So, on today's video, we are joined by the lovely Beca, who is a super Disney fan. How you doing today, Beca?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
For sure, it's like I love that you're passionate about Disney stuff, and when Soul came out, which is what we're talking about today, I just love the stuff that you was putting up about it. And I was just like, if we're going to do an episode on Soul, I want to have you up here to join us for it. So before we get into that, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I'm River Moriarty on Instagram, and as I put up on there, I'm an artist, a writer, and a script supervisor. I think that which one takes priority tends to change, but artist I think is always going to be number one. As far as being a Disney fan, I've always been a Disney fan, and that was like one of the first passions that I had. Watching kind of the behind the scenes footage and seeing the artists who are working, I realized like, oh, okay, there are adults who are doing this for a living. And so I kind of poured myself into that, into my artwork, into filmmaking, into writing, doing poetry, that kind of thing. So, I will always be a Disney kid. And I've been looking forward to Soul, honestly, since they put out that title card. Before they had any kind of trailer out, before they had any information out about this movie, when I saw the title card, I was just so excited for an original story. I was just like, I'm on board. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
I can relate to that too because I
yeah.
was stoked too on it.
Oh yeah. Trav was the main one who was talking it up, really leading up to the movie.
Yeah. I remember when the movie was first announced, I saw the title card and it looked interesting to me, but I didn't watch the trailer when it initially had dropped. I remember the hype that the movie had got when it was first announced, that Jamie Foxx was going to be on board. This was the first Black Pixar movie that Pixar was doing, so a lot of people were hyped up about it. But also, too, this movie had kind of got a little bit of backlash from some fans because they were saying that why do Black people always have to turn into animals or something in an animated film? And I just feel like a lot of people were kind of just blowing it out of proportion because there are so many animated films where people get turned into animals or skeletons or, anything. Mm-hmm. So how did you guys feel about that when y'all saw that little bit of backlash when the movie was first announced?
Right.
Starting with
Trav, lead us off. Oh.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Trav.
We can start with Becca. She's the guest. But
okay.
So yeah, that's definitely been something that I know the community has been frustrated about, is having that full-on representation. And like, I have always been a fan of stories that involve transmogrification, where like a character transforms into a different body, but I also understand like how important it is to have that clear representation. But I think that it's always going to be important that it follows the story. It can't just be thrown in there just for the sake of just changing it up. And I think that for Solo is definitely a central part of the plot. So I don't take it that way. And I have been thinking about this in regards to like representation in film, especially like in regards to animated film. I was thinking about how, like, as a Latinx person, we have very, very little representation. Like, I was thinking about the movie Coco, which recently came out, and that was the first time that you really saw anything Disney Pixar related that represented Latinx people. And for the majority of the movie, we're skeletons. We weren't even in our own skin, but it's something that's important to the plot and moving that story along. So it's not something that bothered me immensely because I think that, especially in Soul, like there was so much representation that was so well done, especially like as a New Yorker looking at just like the lighting, looking at the people, everything was there and it was familiar. And so like I really appreciated that. Nothing was, just put out there as a caricature or gratuitous. It was us. It was people. And so like yeah, part of the movie you have this whole other representation of these like animated souls that kind of look a little funny, but it just moved the story along, and it was beautifully done in my opinion.
I agree. Trav, what about you?
Well, again, I don't want to come off insensitive or anything like that, barren that, I am a white man. But I think a lot of times, like you said, stuff gets a little bit blown out of proportion. I don't think there's any sort of maliciousness towards anything that they're doing. Maybe in hindsight, it might be ignorant, because ignorant is bliss. But I don't think there's any like maliciousness behind how they choose to go about animated characters and story. So I would say some stuff probably is blown out of proportion a little bit. But then again, I guess I can sympathize with the fact that you finally get something and it ain't what you thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't want to speak on it too much.
No, I mean, I agree with you on that because when I initially saw it, I didn't know what was going on. I remember like people were saying that he got turned into a blob, and I don't know if there was a description that came out when the movie was first announced, but when I did watch the movie, like I was completely, blown away with how different it was because again, I didn't know that it was gonna, be in the afterlife and stuff like that. And then we find out that he ended up dying and he was at the great beyond, whether he was going to go to heaven or whether he was going to go to hell. D, same question for you. How did you feel about it?
Me personally, as far as different, I guess, nationalities in movie representation, it isn't really a big thing because I always tend to pay close attention to the message of the movie, regardless of anything else. And I want to see if that by itself hits home whenever I watch something. That's just me personally. That's how I always watch a movie. Sometimes, I mean, I think a lot of things, especially moving forward with everything that's, especially in the black community banks, things are getting blown out of proportion a bit much. I thought Soul was a decent movie. It was a Pixar movie. It ran home. It's the message is very clear to the movie, and that was about it.
Good answer. I loved all three of you guys' responses. I'm glad we were all on the same page. We really didn't have any negative thoughts about when the representation came into play with the movie. So the movie, we're introduced to Joe Gardner, who is a middle school teacher. He teaches music, and he is an inspiring jazz musician. He was inspired by jazz because of going to the jazz club with his father when he was still alive. And that was one of the cool things that I loved about the movie was the father-son relationship that you really don't see a lot when it comes to, certain movies like this. And I love that his father got him into the same thing that he was passionate about, because remember, at first, Joe, he wasn't a fan of jazz. And then when he went into the club, he fell in love with it. How do you guys feel about jazz music? Do we have any jazz listeners here?
You lead it off.
I mean, I love jazz music. I got is it 88.1? I believe that's the local jazz station here in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. I think that is right.
Yeah, I don't want to pretend like I'm an avid jazz listener.
I mean, I'm not avid, but I do listen to Jason Trio. That's probably, I listen to all types of music, but I came across them, and I'm an avid person. If I like your music, I'll probably invest in at least one of your CDs, I'll find the one that I can listen to from beginning to end, and I'll get it, Also, I picked up a band today called Black Pumbaa. I actually got the CD in today, and they're kind of a jazzy band. New. Just came out in 2019. So
Yeah, that's
yep,
the band that you recommended to me. That video.
correct. And I
Yeah.
went ahead and got that CD because I really liked it, man. I like the message of their music. So yeah.
What about you,
Yeah.
Doc?
Yep. Miss Becca.
I'm a big fan of like big band and swing music.
Mm.
Like I got that old soul, so I'm just like I will sing along with it.
Okay. Oh.
Or like all the musical parts and like I like that they went with jazz, not just because it's something where it's like you can kind of improv and go off the rails a little bit and like Joe says in the movie, you put the you into it and there's a point in the movie where he tries to explain to 22 that the rules of jazz and the rules of life are very different. And I thought that was so interesting because, like, she makes a point of, well, I'm not gonna say she because she's soul, so there isn't any gender really
Yeah.
there. But 22 talks about jazzing it as a verb and kind of improving. And Joe has this idea in his head that life follows these rules and you need to figure out A, B, and C, these equations of how to live your life. But so much of life just is improv. It's so much of just trying to figure out your own way and, kind of go off the rails a bit, find yourself. There isn't that clear cut, okay, these are the lyrics, this is the melody, and here are your three chords. Like, no, you can go a different way and find yourself in that mix. So I appreciate they went with jazz. I think that was very purposeful to go that direction rather than just any medium of music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And that is something that I did love about the movie as well, was just the music, the overall feel, and representation when it comes to seeing jazz in an animated film. But talking about Joe a little bit more, I liked how, he was this guy, he was looking to catch his big break, and then he gets a phone call from one of his former students, me. I appeared in the movie. So Trav didn't think that was me. They scanned me. They put me in the movie, and then they changed my name to Curly. I don't understand why Trav was hating and why Trav was making a rant on social media about this. Trav, what you shaking your head
I mean, you're clearly wrong. Like, that was you. I saw it.
Uh-huh.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hey,
I saw with my own eyes. That was you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. It's like
We can move over.
this dude Trav was trying to convince everybody. It was just funny because when I saw that, it's like I screenshotted it immediately, and I was just like, "Hey, look, everybody, I'm in the movie." And people were literally messaging me saying, "Hey, congrats on being in the movie," and I'm happy that they put you in there. And Trav was just like, "You can't be serious."
I mean, I saw it. Like that's the thing, though. Like, legitimately, it's very real when you feel like you're represented by a character.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you feel some type of way. Like, sometimes it's very rare to find someone that you can really identify with or see yourself as. And like, it's dumb to include this, but like you've seen videos where like there's a hamster and he's watching Ratatouille very intently, or like dogs that are watching like Zootopia. Like, they're like, oh, I'm there. Like, that's a stupid example, but there is something where you're like, I'm not comparing you to that, but I'm saying
no,
there's
you
an
are.
excitement.
Yeah.
There's an excitement.
We knew where she was
You're
going
like,
with that.
oh, look, that looks like me. I never get to see anybody who looks like me on a TV screen. So sometimes you gotta take what you can get.
That's right.
When you said the hamsters, I started thinking about the commercials. I think it was like the Kia Soul commercials.
Yeah.
With the hamsters. That's what I
Yeah.
started thinking of when you said hamsters.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I give Joe a call, tell him to come down to the jazz club because there's a spot open. They need somebody to perform in the band that night. And Joe, he impresses. I can't remember her name. Let me pull my notes
Dorothea
up.
Williams.
Yeah, Dorothea Williams, who is voiced by Angela Bassett. And she listens to Joe. At first, she's kind of playing him because she's just like, yeah, he's the middle school teacher. He's a nobody, pretty much. And after he plays, he wows her and he gets the gig. And Joe is so excited about this that, like, he's not paying attention to anything that's going on around him. How many times have we had some good news come our way and it's like we're not paying attention to anything that's going on around us?
I don't know what you mean.
Like with Joe,
like when you're taken by the moment.
yeah, like when you get some good news. Like there's been times where I slid in somebody's DMs to get a guest on the podcast, and I might be doing something, and it's just like I'm excited because it's like I can't believe that this guest is just like, yo, I want to come on y'all's podcast. I mean, that's just me. I don't know, like if you guys have ever got excited about anything.
We gotta stop you from posting the pictures. You know, 2
All
seconds
time.
after we get done talking to him, man. I know.
Yep.
I know how excited you
Yep.
get.
That's how it is.
But
I mean,
like,
I just
oh, go ahead, D. I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, you first.
No, you first.
I was just gonna say, man, I'm usually pretty even keel nowadays, Banks. So when something happens, I'm well aware of everything. You know, it's not like it's like Christmas other than Christmas. You know, like if something happens, I'm like, oh man, I just kind of keep going with the day. So, but we know how you get. We know how you get, Banks. Look at it.
I support the enthusiasm. Like, I support it. Because the thing is that, like, I see so many people who are like, don't talk about anything until it's like fully come to fruition.
Right.
And like, they're afraid to talk about something that they're excited about, you know, because they're like, oh, the evil eye's going to get me. And I'm, you know, this thing is going to fall apart in front of me. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, is how people are afraid to get excited about things in life because they think like, oh, it's going to be taken away from me at any moment. And they like forget that, you know, we're all failing and winning on rotation. Like it's bound to happen. You're not foolish for being excited and expecting good things to happen to you. You know, disappointments are going to come too. And that's definitely something that like Joe is familiar with. And like in the movie, his mom kind of harps on a little bit, like, I don't want you to put all of your energy into, but I support, I'm an optimist. So like, I support being excited about those things and talking about those things. But I don't think that like, if this is where you were going with that question of like not being aware of like the danger that surrounding you, I think it's hard to be that excited and take notice of those things. Like, I don't know. I can't say like, oh, I was excited about this huge opportunity, and I was definitely aware that like my world could come crashing down around me.
Well, the excitement is what killed him. You know what I mean? So like, he stepped right in through that sewer.
He did.
Yeah. Like it's crazy because it's like all this other stuff was going on around him, and like he didn't pay attention to it, and then it was him falling in the sewer that killed him.
Which I'm gonna stop you there for a second, bro. I was not a fan of that.
I wasn't either.
I don't like how they killed him off, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I really felt like they could have gave us something a little bit either more emotionally intense,
I get what you're saying.
Which one would you prefer?
It was just so random to me. It felt disconnect. It kind of disconnected me a little bit.
There were a lot of like opportunities before then for him to die, though, like with the piano falling and like all of the banana peels and everything. Like, which would you prefer? Because I think that like as far as the death, if they were to go too emotional at that point, like it would have taken us out of it, and we couldn't get to the story though.
Good point. I think it was just a situation where it was like the most unlikely of things got him in the end, where he's walking through this array of dangerous things, and then, you know, I think it was a good way to just keep it short and move on to the actual story that they wanted to tell. So,
well, I also think in real life that kind of wouldn't have killed you.
Yeah,
it could.
Well,
yeah, of
way
course it
down.
could. You know, I mean, you could
Good.
die falling down the stairs. What's
It
the
also
percentage of it
depends.
happening, though?
But
I feel
it
like he would have been
depends
in the
on how old you
hospital.
are when you fall. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people die from stupid things all the time.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah, we don't know how big and how long. That's what she said. We don't know how big and how long it was in the drain hole. I mean, I would assume like if we were walking in the streets here in Norfolk and there was a sewer open, I don't think we would die from it.
Nah.
I mean,
Depends
But
on how far it is down, man.
yeah,
Oh.
but
You
you
see
got
the
to think.
ones. You see the ones in Ninja Turtles jump
That's
in,
what I was
y'all.
about
Don't
to say.
pretend like y'all don't see
Yeah.
that. Them things
That's
be
exactly what I was about to
super
say.
fall down. Just on a Ninja Turtle, bro, and he proved it. It was over.
Do you think Master Splinter saw his body? Like, how did he get out of the sewer? I would assume that the turtles helped him.
Leonardo.
it had to be the turtle.
Raphael would have looked at him.
The ambulance came and got him, bro.
Well, yeah. Who else is in the sewer in New York? Godzilla.
I think that's another thing. And I don't want to nitpick the movie, but that's another thing, too. In reality, if he was dead on impact, they just would have declared him dead when the ambulance came and got him, and that kind of would have been that. He wouldn't have been in a hospital bed waiting for his soul.
They make a point of this that like he's not quite dead. His body's in a holding pattern, so he's in a coma during that period where he's like in that in between space. So he's not completely gone, but yeah. I mean, if he was just dead, it would be one thing. But they make it very clear, like he's still trying to fight back to his body, and his body is still somewhat attached to that.
Yeah. One of the things that I like is how there are people that are in the great beyond who are just there because they're spiritual, like Moonwind, who has a giant pirate ship. It kind of reminded me of One Piece, even though I'm not really a fan of that. Hey, chill.
There's nothing like One Piece, bro.
Yeah.
I saw a pirate ship.
Pirate ship?
Yeah,
You could've
you're
been
trying
like-
to take digs at us on the
Yeah,
low.
it's like, dude, you could have been like, that reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean. They got a
Yeah,
pirate.
I've never seen those.
He's never seen those, Trav. He's not a normal boy. He's never seen those.
You haven't seen the first one?
Yeah. Go ahead. Get him.
He's too
He
busy
hasn't
watching
seen
the same
any.
movies over and over and over
But-
again.
It's not true.
Jojo.
But I don't understand how you miss like Curse of the Black Pearl.
Because he's too busy
Good
watching the
movie.
same movie 5 times in a row.
Hey,
I mean,
that's not
people who like did not know that like Pirates of the Caribbean was a like Disney park ride before, but they at least like.
Well, I knew that it was a ride, but it just didn't appeal to me back then. Like, I know when me and D was younger, D used to always talk about the film series, but it just didn't appeal to me. I guess
feel like your life is lacking for not having heard the soundtrack and feeling empowered to like
That's
steal
why
it.
I get him.
Well, Becca, what I think it is that when I was younger, I was watching this anime called One Piece, and I had my fill with it, and then I guess it turned me off from pirates. I guess
So
that's
you
the
never
only
seen
thing.
That's a
Book
negative.
Or Peter Pan? Or
Yeah,
nothing?
you never.
That feels really sad. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that they were turned off from like piracy.
It's
Yeah,
because
he's-
of one.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
this
know what to
an-
do with that.
It's this anime that's been going on for too long. It should have been over by now.
no, not long enough, Trav.
I mean, that's what happens when animes are successful. They keep going, you know?
But it's not that successful. But hey, we're talking about Soul here. We're not talking about one.
You open that can of worms.
It is
but go ahead.
an interesting way to like kind of present that idea of that like outer body experience.
Yep.
You know, to have the kind of hippie characters going off on a ship and I don't know, finding these lost souls. I think the concept of the like lost souls that they present in Soul is very interesting because you never really hear about lost souls presented in that way of just like not that they're doomed in any way, but that they are so disconnected from their own lives and disconnected from their passions, and they've just been caught up in obsession. I thought that was a very interesting route to go when bringing up the lost souls.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because they showed the one guy, he worked at a business firm, and he wasn't dead. He was still alive. He was just lost. By you just mentioning the Lost Souls, do you think that that's where Patrick Swayze's character would be at if he would have never went to heaven in Ghost?
So
Do you think he would have become a Lost
we
Soul?
haven't watched yet.
Mm-hmm. Ghost. Good movie. No, I think Swayze, he moved on, bro. He helped her in that movie. You
I know,
seen
but
that one, Banks?
I'm saying if he didn't move on. Yes, I have seen it. But I'm just thinking about like Lost Souls. Like think about like Ghostbusters. Do you think that some of the ghosts from Ghostbusters will be there? The Lost
Of
Souls?
course. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
More likely than Patrick Swayze, bro. Come on.
Okay, all right, I'm just asking. But speaking about 22, Tina Fey, she voices 22. Like Becca said earlier, I keep saying she, but they don't have a gender, so I'll say they. They're genderless. I loved when we are introduced to 22 and we find out like all of the people that they have been helping that have come to the great beyond. We see Muhammad Ali, we see other historical figures and whatnot. I thought it was also cool when they were like, I always interfere and make this basketball team lose. And then we see the New York Knicks. And I was just like, so that's the reason why they always lose all the time. It's because of 22. How did you guys feel about 22 when they were first introduced? Starting with you,
Becca. Oh, okay.
I like how it's like we always either go to Trav or Becca. Let's start with you. Let's start with you, D.
I thought 22 was a pretty nice addition to the cast. It helped fill it out and give him a purpose, not just his own, but to help her or help 22 find its way. So I liked it a lot. I like the aspect. It brought it home for me. Trav?
I didn't hate 22. I didn't love 22. It's just kind of there. I mean,
Okay.
especially like first being introduced. I mean,
Well, I felt like 22 helped him to really find his purpose too.
well, I mean, obviously,
And I mean, it was kind of like a catalyst, if you will. It took somebody else's point of view to help him find his own real point of view. But yeah, Miss Becca?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting you brought up that, like, you don't love 22, you don't hate 22. Like, 22 is interesting because, like, in the beginning of our introduction to the character, like, 22 comes off as this character who is so stubborn and just set in their ways and it's like turning off anybody that they come into contact with. But the whole time that is a defense mechanism for 22 to like keep everything else at bay, just be like, life sounds boring, making all these excuses for not living their life when in actuality, at the core of 22, they were afraid that they were not worthy of living. And I thought that was such an interesting thing to present in an animated film. It's not really like something that is addressed often in film, that feeling of I'm not good enough for the life that I inhabit. I'm not good enough for these days. And I thought that was really interesting to kind of dig into that character, realize like there's all these layers even before 22 becomes a lost soul and is visually consumed by their fears. They were already hiding it under this stubborn persona that wouldn't let anyone in. So I appreciated that, but I don't think that like 22 in any way was trying to purposefully move Joe in the direction that he needed to go. I think that Joe, as an educator and as someone who inspires people in his day-to-day and encourages people to the point where he doesn't even fully realize his impact on people, he was going to have a greater impact on her, like on their life, than any of these these people in history that were so well renowned. And I think that was such an important point to bring up in the film, because the assumption with the mentors was like, you have to be this great person, like this famous person who accomplished A, B, and C. Whereas with Joe, like, yes, he's a very talented musician and he is passionate about what he does, but something that is so core to him as well is the fact that he's an educator and someone who inspires and moves people in the direction of their dreams and their goals. So I love that they allowed 22 to play that role.
Yeah, it's kind of like Joe needed 22 so that way that he could grow in the film as well, because he was just a regular guy. Unfortunately, with him being a regular guy, we saw Joe's life, and 22, when they saw it, they was just like, well, you really haven't done anything for real. And it was kind of sad. And that was something that really touched me when I was watching the film, was that while Joe was somebody, like you said, who inspired people, and he was very talented at what he did, he really wasn't doing much with his life. And he was alone. He was by himself. He had a mother who didn't support him. I kind of feel like she didn't support him, which we do find out is because of his father's love for jazz, and his father was a musician, and she just didn't want Joe to end up being financially unstable if something was to happen to her. So I totally understand why she felt that way, but I'm just happy that because of 22 and Joe swapping bodies, Joe was able to experience life from other people's views. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was able to see how other people saw him, because if he was still in his normal body, he would have never experienced that. Just like with Dez when he went to the barbershop.
Yeah.
It's like Joe, he always comes in there, like he told 22, he's just like, yeah, like, he's my favorite barber. We always talk about jazz. And because 22 was inside of Joe's body, Joe was able to finally see that, okay, like, Dez, he actually wanted to be a veterinarian, but he ended up deciding to do the thing that he loved, which was becoming a barber. And this is something that I had said on Facebook about the barbershop scene. I feel like that scene was such a important part of the entire movie, because when it comes to the barbershop is a place where you can learn, get information, just hanging out with people. And the barbershop is an important thing in the Black community. So I was happy that the way that it was represented in this film, they did a phenomenal job with it.
Yeah, for me, I think, like you just said, the barbershop scene was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, just because of how important it is. I mean, the barbershop is where Black people go and get therapy.
Yeah.
You know, it's jokes, it's real talk. I mean, and that's why you got movies like Barbershop. You got a show like LeBron James, where everybody gets in the barbershop to talk shop, because it's pivotal in the Black community. The thing that I really didn't like, some disconnects for me, was you have his rival come into the shop for the split second, and then that's it. And it's the same with the trombone girl, right? You get like a split scene with her in class, and then a split scene with her at the house where she wants to quit, but she really don't want to quit. She just wants him to tell her not to quit. I felt like they could have dived more into these things, because again, at the beginning, Joe is not happy with being an educator, and by the end of the movie, he realized how pivotal he is to other people's lives.
Yep.
Yeah, like, I just felt like they could have dived more into that stuff, and they didn't. For whatever reasonings, they decided not to. I don't know. But those are things I would have liked to see more in the movie, especially, like I said, the rivalry with him and the homeboy from the barbershop. What's the point of that scene if there's nothing else to it?
Well, I feel like they kind of touched on that when 22 was looking at Joe's past, and we saw his friend or frenemy, what's his name, Paul. We see how Paul treated him growing up and whatnot, and how Paul still kind of talks down to them while he was in the barbershop. And I just feel like that was just a scene that was just added to the movie, so that way that Joe could finally, say something to stand up for himself, because you saw Paul ended up leaving after Joe said what he said, even though it wasn't Joe, it was 22 inside of Joe's body. I get what you mean about with Connie. It's like the movie is about Joe. These other characters are just people that are in his life. The movie is about Joe's growth and becoming a better person and just living his life and not living his life boring. Dee, how did you feel about the barbershop scene in the movie?
I thought it was pretty good, and I mean, I believe it. The line is something like, he's just, 22 was like, well, he's just trying to make himself feel better, because of his situation. And I think that just plays right into the general theme of the movie and Joe finding out how pivotal he is, like Trav said, to other people. And I think that's just part of the, a small factor of what drives him home and seeing how pivotal he can be and how he can help others and things like that. So, I mean, the barbershop scene, everybody, I mean, Banks, me and you especially have gone into barbershops plenty of times. And, you see it's very familiar, seeing it on the big screen in any capacity to how it actually is, like Trav said, it's like therapy. You go there and you just kind of let it out, no matter what it is, especially when you've been a customer there, you feel comfortable. It's therapy without calling it therapy. So
yeah, I remember there was this one time I went to the barbershop and they were playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 in there, and my girlfriend at the time, she was sitting out in the car waiting for me to come out of the barbershop. And I remember she was so pissed off when she found out that I was inside the barbershop playing the video game with the other barbers. Because it's like we were just in there, we were talking about life. Like I kind of got wrapped up and stuff. We started talking about anime and whatnot. And
the zone, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I was in the zone. Like we were just talking about life, and I kind of forgot that she was sitting out inside my car. And I remember she came to the door and she was just like, "Are you serious? Are you kidding me right now?" And I was just like, "Oh man." So I definitely had to make it up to her. But yeah, I mean, the barbershop is it's home. It's like I said, it's where we go, where we learn. It's therapeutic. And who doesn't love going to the barbershop? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how old you are. I feel like every time you leave, you're going to be leaving with some sort of information from the barbershop. Something else that I wanted to touch on was the other souls in the Great Beyond. Now, Tina Fey, she voices 22, and I know that she voiced. I never watched Inside Out, but she was the happy. Thought.
No, that was what's her name? She played Leslie Knope on.
No. Yeah, no. I know she played Leslie Knope on Parks and Rec. But what was her role in Inside Out? Like, wasn't she like the happy thought or something like that, or the happy emotion?
No, what? Oh my goodness, why can't I remember her name? No.
Tina Fey wasn't in Inside Out, dude.
Yeah, the girl who plays Joy in Inside Out.
Yeah, that was that's Amy Poehler. That's her homegirl.
That's her home.
Did, like on SNL.
Amy Poehler.
Weekend Update.
Amy Poehler. There we go.
There you
Amy
go.
Poehler. Okay, now thank you for correcting me on that, because I got both of them mixed up. But do you think that the roles of the other souls, because they were named Terry and they were named Jerry, do you think that was kind of like an Easter egg to Parks and Rec? Because remember, we had Jerry on.
God, I hadn't even,
I don't think so.
That is a possibility. I just thought that they went with that because they were very gender neutral names. That's how I interpreted it.
Or, I mean, to me, it was kind of like just a running gag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's anything. I know you like to look for a JoJo reference and everything, dude.
There were plenty of JoJo references in this.
I think you're looking a little too deep into it, dude. And it's so funny that talking about this movie, Soul, and I talked about this with Dee before we got on the air, was the two movies that I said literally was side by side pretty much as Soul is Coco, Inside Out, and Soul. They're virtually almost identical 3 movies with certain changes to them, but the concept is pretty much the same for all 3 of these movies.
Yeah, I feel like it's something where they build their way up to Soul.
Right.
with, you know what I mean? Like they touch on those negative emotions with Inside Out. They touch on your like passions in Coco.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like all kind of leading up towards Soul.
Yeah.
Mm. Now, does anybody know off the top, are these three movies made by the same team or
I know
directed by
that
the same person? Mm-hmm.
Inside Out and Soul were both like written and directed by Peter Docter.
Right.
Okay.
So there was
Interesting.
definitely some correlation between the
Mm-hmm.
two. But one thing that I like about Soul, I think more so than Inside Out, is I feel like Inside Out was something that was more directed towards children and teaching them about their emotions and like
Right.
Mm-hmm.
helping them identify these things. Whereas like Soul, I think that people will assume that it's going to be a children's movie because it's animated. But as far as being able to like identify with Joe Gardner, like no kid that was like sitting around and singing "Let It Go" on repeat is connecting with Joe Gardner's character.
Yeah.
Like adults who have like gone through the process of chasing, you know, their passions and dreams and getting hit with like dead end jobs and like going through, you know, all those things. So I think that that's something that I really appreciate is that Soul was more mature and more geared
Mm-hmm.
towards speaking to adults who can identify with those characters. So like one thing that I had talked to you, Benjamin, about was that I had watched Inside Pixar, which is also on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I
And
watched
like the
that.
first episode, they have Kemp Powers, who's the co-director and co-writer of Soul. He talks about his very personal experiences and like fighting to get that barbershop scene in there because it was so true to his personal experience, and he wanted that moment where, you know, someone can really like see their own life experience reflected back at them and get that message just driven home even more.
Yeah, I'm glad
I
that you
like
had brought.
that.
I'm glad that you had brought up the fact that Soul was something that was more for adults, because I know we had talked about this on Facebook, where it's like I would be cool if Pixar wanted to make, you know, movies for all ages, because I do feel like, you know, a lot of us, we grew up watching a lot of the Pixar stuff, you know, Toy Story,
Mm-hmm.
Ratatouille, Up. We watched all of those movies, and most of those movies are geared towards kids. Now they do have adult themes in them, especially like with Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 3 that came out a couple of years ago. It's like, you know, you have the adult themes where it's like Andy, he's an adult now and he doesn't need the toys anymore. And it's like these toys, it's like they have feelings, and it's like they have to cope with the person who they grew up with pretty much becoming an adult and not needing them anymore. I wouldn't mind seeing an adult Andy movie. I'd be cool with that just to see like what he's doing now. But I just love the
Okay.
fact that I would
I don't
never
even
want to
know
see
what toys is he playing with.
Yeah,
no,
I
I wouldn't
mean,
want
where
to see
you
an
go?
adult Andy movie.
Oh man, come on.
I don't, yeah, I think that it's just like when you mention adult animation, people's minds immediately jump to something very different. So like
I get it.
I
I know
always
exactly
feel
where you're
like I
going
need
with
to be
this.
careful when I, you know, say something like, "Oh, this is geared more towards adults." Like it's not that the kid. Yeah, it's more so like I kind of viewed it as my nieces probably these themes are going to go over their heads,
Yeah.
Yes.
and we're going to be able to like watch the film and as adults identify with these different moments, and like especially like as a New Yorker, I saw so much of like my past and, you know, experience and environment reflected back. So, you know, that's something that's really cool. That's something that's probably going to go over a child's head.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
exactly.
I'll say this. I think when you look at this cast, I thought everybody killed it
Yep.
Mhm.
versus an earlier in the year Pixar movie Onward,
Oh yeah.
where I felt like the cast didn't do a good enough job. Like
Mhm.
Chris sounded like he phoned it in, you know, in that movie. I didn't versus like Jamie Foxx killed it in this movie. honestly, if I didn't know Jamie Foxx was in the movie, I don't think I would hear that voice and be like, "That's Jamie Foxx." To be quite honest with you.
Mm.
I'm mad that they didn't announce that Angela Bassett was going to be in this movie earlier. Like, they should have said something, because I was so
They
What
also
about
didn't
Angela
announce that
Bassett?
Felicia Rashad was going to be in the movie, neither, right? I don't remember
No, they
that.
didn't.
Yeah.
No,
Like, why are you not promoting that?
Yeah.
Well, I
I
mean,
feel
it's
like
Disney.
it's like, yeah, I feel like they just wanted to leave in a couple of surprises, but I
Yeah.
agree that, Angela Bassett, Felicia Rashad, those are household names. Like everybody knows who
Right.
they are. So I don't understand why they didn't announce it either.
I
I
think it's
mean,
what you said though. They just you kind of want to leave it up. Remember when Jumanji first came out, they didn't announce Nick Jonas was going to be in the movie
Yeah.
until you saw the movie.
I
And
still
I mean,
haven't.
Nick Jonas is Nick Jonas, dude. So I mean, if you're not promoting Nick Jonas in a movie,
I mean,
and you
Nick
want that
Jonas
to be a
is not Angela
surprise.
Bassett, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Angela Bassett's Angela
He is for that
Bassett.
market though. He is for that teenage girl market though.
I feel like that's a very bold statement.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know any teenage girls who's clapping over Angela Bassett.
Hey,
I
come
know
on.
other
I'm
people.
I mean,
personally,
hey, but
I'm
look,
personally
well,
cheering Angela Bassett on, but I'm 30 plus.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, she was pretty big in the African American community, which this
Exactly.
movie Bank stated is geared towards. I
Yeah,
think that's more of like you if you're gonna promote Nick Jonas, you're gonna promote Angela Bassett and Jamie Foxx. Like
Yep.
you can't just come on,
well,
man.
that's what I'm saying. They they just wanted to leave some surprises for you.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
surprises are
marketing.
nice.
Yeah, but marketing is marketing.
I don't think it would have
You
made
got
more
your
people
surprise.
turn into the movie though.
It might have helped.
I mean, it's Disney and Pixar. I mean,
It
I
could have
feel like
helped.
I feel like it would just be like a cool feature to know that they're going to be in the movie. Like
Mhm.
look at Black Panther for example. It's like we saw all of these actors and actresses that were going to be in this movie, and I kind of feel like what Travis saying, where it's just like it's like yeah, it's cool that Angela Bassett is in Black Panther, but like, are people really going to see Black Panther to see Angela Bassett? Because while she was in the movie, it's like she wasn't really in the movie that long. You know what I'm saying? Compared to somebody like Michael B. Jordan. If you promote Michael B. Jordan, it's just like, hell yeah, I know who Michael B. Jordan is. I'm going to go see that movie. I know who Chadwick Boseman is. I'm going to go see that movie. Some of the actresses in this movie in Black Panther, I didn't even know who they were until I watched
yeah.
Black Panther.
Mhm.
So. But something else I wanted to bring up was the villain in the movie, Terry, who he was a villain, but he wasn't really a villain. He was trying to
Yeah.
He was doing his
Joel's soul.
job, is what it was.
Yeah, he was doing his job. Like
Yeah.
Doing their job. Like,
he
It
really
didn't come
reminded me.
off as a
Who's
villain
the,
at
who's the
all.
dude from
he doesn't
Recess?
villain at all.
Yeah, I don't
Exactly.
think you should call him. I don't think you should call him a villain, Banks. Just call him an antagonist. It comes off a little better.
The
Like
dude-
a villain
He's a-
is pretty strong. I think of like
a
Scar
villain.
from The Lion King as a villain, bro.
Yeah.
Or Jafar,
Or
that's a
Nestor
villain.
de la Cruz. Like,
Yeah,
that's a
that
villain.
guy was going to work, bro. He was working like everybody else up there.
I mean, well, you saw what he did to Paul. Like he scared him. It's like Paul, like he was the potato chips. Like he took Paul's
He was
soul.
like, don't eat these potato chips. I'm trying to help
Like-
you live. Like,
It's like, can you imagine like just enjoying your life and then like this soul just takes your soul out of your body and just like whoop, whoop, wrong guy. It's like Paul was terrified.
poor Paul. I feel for him. Like, he didn't need to go through all that.
And also
Kinda troll,
to bringing it up because we were talking about the actors and actresses in this movie. Did you guys know that Donnell Rawlins voiced Dez?
Yeah.
And Questlove, he voiced Curly. I requested that he voiced me in the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I heard
But that's what we were
that.
talking about too. Devon Diggs was Paul. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? From he's in
Hamilton.
Blackish. He's in Hamilton. So and he's a super funny guy. So you got a lot of people in this movie that really weren't, pictured
Featured.
beforehand.
Well, now that I really think about it, think about all the Pixar movies that come out. Like, going all the way back to Toy Story. The
Mhm.
only people that we knew that were going to be in the movie were Tom Hanks and Tim Allen.
Okay.
And they,
See, Toy Story came out in '94, bro. You were like 5. You didn't know
but
anything.
I'm just
He's
saying,
like, but I know who Tim Allen is.
yeah, yeah. Like as a kid, like I knew
At
who Tom
5?
Hanks and Tim Allen was.
At
I don't think I
5?
was 5 when Toy Story came out. When did it come out? It didn't come
94.
out in '94.
Yeah, it did. It came out in 1994, bro. So you were 5.
You know what though? Like
You know no damn Tom Hanks. at
bringing this
5.
up though is interesting because like a trend that's been going on with like some like lesser animated films is just putting out like the big like star names.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just like, oh, this is a voice and an actor that is very popular and well known, but isn't necessarily like voice acting. They're not like doing something unique and very specific for that role. And also like the story is not something that holds up. So I like that, so yeah, it had a lot of great actors voicing these characters, but they push forth the story first. They also surprise you with like, oh, this person's in it, and also this person. We didn't mention that in the first trailer, but she's there, So I appreciate that because sometimes that's just a crutch for some animated studios where they're just like, oh, well, we have such and such and such and such, and you're like, yeah, but this movie's trash.
Yeah.
I guess
I
you
like
kind
that
of.
word. That word.
I guess
Trash.
you kind
That's try. That's Try's wheelhouse.
I
Trash.
guess you kind of say that with Scoop, where it's like remember when
Scoop
Scoop
won't
got
like
down,
that.
huh?
Scoop is mid-tier voice actors. Like, it's not stars.
But I'm just saying, like, remember, like they announced everybody from the jump. Like the only person that was a big name from Scoob was Will Forte.
Yeah, but also you got to think they probably announced everybody because they made the change of iconic voice actors that have been playing those actors for so long.
That's true.
Imagine if you didn't know, you just assume that we're going to get the Velma that's been voicing Velma forever, and you get in the movie and it's not.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So we get towards the end of the movie, and Joe, he's back in his body now, and after the stuff gets switched back up, 22, they go back to the Great Beyond. Joe, he goes and he plays at the jazz concert, and he has the time of his life. He finally reaches the goal that he always wanted to achieve, and then he finds out that this is something that now he's going to have to do every night now that he's a part of the band. And while you would think that Joe would be happy for this, he's not, because he realizes that, this isn't it. Like, it's like I have more fun doing the stuff that I do by helping people out and inspiring people than wanting to do something every night. Like, how did you guys take the ending of the movie where Joe was willing to give it all up so that way that 22 could come to Earth and finally have a life? I'll start with you, Becca.
So I think that Pixar had put out something on their Instagram where they were kind of talking to the co-writers of Soul, and they were talking about how something that inspired the story was the question, I've been doing this thing that I've been passionate about and I've been chasing my whole life, but does that equal happiness? Does that equal fulfillment? And I think that it's so crucial that Soul took the time to let their audience know, like, yes, you can absolutely pursue your passions. You can even exceed at your passions, but that isn't the whole of who you are and what gives your life value. I love that they put that out there, that he's more than just the musician, and he's very talented and very passionate about what he does. He brings so much to the table in that way, but he also has all of these relationships that are very important to him within his family, and relationships that he's kind of put on the back burner, that he hasn't like paid attention to, like even just like referencing his relationship with Des, this person that he's known for years and doesn't know about his life. They point out that, Des, in that short period of time of introducing him, like he's a father, he, was in the Navy, he wanted to, be a doctor. He then like went and became a barber, and he loves his job just because, you know, whether you actually get to do the thing that you're pursuing, or whether you don't get to do that on that level, your life is still so valuable and so very much worth living, and it's so much bigger than just the what you do and what you do for a living. So I think that was huge. And I also want to like put this out there, how much I appreciate that message coming through in a year where so many people lost so much in regards to losing loved ones, losing their jobs, losing their sense of purpose. You know what I mean? Like going through so many things that caused us to question all of that. And it's such a beautiful thing for a movie to tell you, like, your life is still worth living and still so wonderful and so purposeful and impactful, even if you don't get to do all those things, or if you do actually get to do those things and excel at it.
Yeah, I definitely like that point. Yeah, I would think I was telling Banks earlier today, you only get one. Until I see somebody come back, you only get one, and you need to appreciate it, because especially in the year where we lost a lot of people, you need to, your life is your life, and it is what you make it, really, so even if you don't get to, the highest plateau of what you were reaching for, you have to appreciate what you do end up with, so. Fellas?
Trav?
Yeah, I like up to that point. I thought him getting the chance to go back into his body I wasn't a fan of it. I felt like it should have ended with the ultimate sacrifice, quote unquote. So I didn't think Act 3 was as satisfying as Act 1 and 2 was for me personally. But yeah, I think that cutoff point of him sacrificing him staying in his body so 22 can come to Earth was kind of like the high point, and I felt like maybe they should have left out the next part after that.
Okay. So, with that being said, and how the movie ends, do you guys think that we're possibly going to get a sequel?
No.
Or would you like a sequel?
No.
You always want a sequel.
I think it's a one-off.
This dude wants an Andy movie after 4 Toy Story movies and everything.
Like, just doing taxes and like.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe Andy grows up to be a podcaster, and Woody's on the back show.
And then Andy looks like me, and then I can be like, I was in the movie.
Nah, Trav, you're more of a Sid.
How you're talking, Trav. I like it.
But
pitch it, Trav.
I just feel like, because I want to know where's 22 at now. Like, that's the reason why I would like to get a sequel to the movie. I'd be all for it, because I really want to know, like, where's 22 at. It's like 22 goes to Earth, and that's pretty much it. Like, it would have been cool and weird at the same time if 22 just showed up and Joe remembered them, and then his memory gets erased and he doesn't know who 22 is anymore. We've seen that happen in movies before. I can't think of any right now, but there have been movies. There was this movie. What's the lady from Cheers? Her name is like Kathy. Y'all know who I'm talking about?
Dude, I've never even seen Cheers, bro.
Cheers is old. I know what it is. I couldn't name you anybody.
Bro, I'm
from
white,
the cast.
but I ain't that white, bro.
I never watched Cheers either, but I know like that's the show that she was on, that she was popular on. But she was in this Disney movie where it's like she was the Tooth Fairy, and she helps this kid out, and it's like she has to fulfill all of these wishes before she dies. Either she's going to go to hell or she's going to go to heaven, and she ends up like. Yo,
yeah, you're talking about Toothless.
Is that what it's called? Toothless?
Yeah, Toothless. And you're talking about that's Kirstie Alley, bro.
Kirstie Alley. There we go. I don't know where I got that.
I thought that.
What did you call it?
Like Dwayne Dwayne Johnson, right?
No, that's
Oh,
the
I-
Tooth Fairy.
Yeah,
That's
that's
Oh.
fair.
Oh.
No,
Toothless
this is
was
Toothless. I remember Toothless.
yeah. Toothless was one of those movies where it's like it was before the Disney Channel original movies. Same thing like there was HE double hockey sticks. If y'all remember that movie.
Yeah, I remember HE double hockey sticks. Yeah.
Hey, those early Disney Channel movies, they
Yeah.
hit hard, man.
Nah, look.
Wait a minute.
I'm mad.
Because I'm like, I have not heard of these. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm mad he's bringing up this movie, but this guy's never seen Pirates of the Caribbean. Digging for these movies, and you ain't never seen Pirates
apparently
of the
there's
Caribbean.
some holes.
Got some holes in this game.
And I'll end it with this. I was at this restaurant and I was talking to one of my friends about Pirates of the Caribbean, and I had mentioned I was just like, isn't the villain in one of the movies Long John Silver? And she was just like, Long John Silver?
Silver. Oh, Davy Crockett.
She's like, you mean Dave Jones? I was just like, I thought.
I'm just gonna put this out there. You don't have to watch any of the other ones. Just watch the first one. Like, just do yourself a favor, and watch the first one
I
because
think
it
they
will
get
bring you so
better.
much joy.
I feel
Like,
like
well-
you need to watch all four.
Yeah,
bro. I feel like
well,
they
the
get
first
better.
three.
I mean, you could,
the
but I
first-
feel like the first one you have to watch it.
The
Like,
first three are essential to me. Like the fourth one is hit or
fourth one's
miss.
alright, yeah.
It depends on what. But the first three are gold. Banks, get in
Well, does it count if the Pirates of the Caribbean level was in Kingdom Hearts 2?
No.
Does that count?
there. No, it doesn't count. No, we're not giving you
what are
any
you doing
credit.
with
for
your
that.
life?
Jesus,
No.
just watch it. What are you scared of?
All right. Well,
Alright,
hey,
go-
I think
Go
I
ahead and
actually
ask
have
us
the
that question, Banks. I know you dying.
Mm-hmm.
what?
You know what? Go ahead and ask.
We
I don't know what.
Trav.
You like to ask that question at the end of every single one.
Mhm.
Do I- Did the JoJo reference?
No, bro. What would
I don't-
we rate this movie?
Oh yeah. Thanks for reminding me. All right. Yeah. So starting with you, Trav. 10 out of 10. What would you give this movie? 1 out of 10.
Mhm.
I give it a solid 7. I thought it was like in the upper mid-range Pixar movies. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was a good watch. It's definitely not going to be on rotation for me. It's not The Incredibles or Monsters Inc. or something like that. But it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. I was expecting it to be a 10 out of 10, but I might have hyped it up a little bit too much, and that's my fault. Maybe I put them at measures they couldn't live up to. I don't know. But yeah, I give it a good
You're
solid.
10. What's a 10 for you, Pixar wise? I'm just curious. Is it Incredibles?
Ratatouille is a 10 for him.
No, it's definitely not Ratatouille.
Yeah, The Incredibles is really good.
Why he always trying to play me,
Incredibles
bro?
is solid.
I know. That's what he does. He tries to play us. Troll.
Like, I've never once brought up Ratatouille as like this amazing feature film ever. Ever. Yeah, 10 out of 10. Again, I think Toy Story, Incredibles, Monster. Honestly, I think Monsters University is even better than Monsters Inc.
That's bold.
Yeah, those are like 3 top of the food chain Pixar.
I feel like it tends to be something that you can identify with. Like, if you can connect with it, like, Toy Story is solid, but, like, I didn't identify with it that
We're not
hard.
toys. We're not toys. Of course we're not.
Not toys,
No,
but like something like Soul or Coco is definitely something that personally I can connect with more and see myself in
Yeah,
more.
Coco's,
so Toy Story.
Coco's incredible. Incredible soundtrack. Incredible movie.
I still need to see it.
Okay.
And of course, that would be his report.
Come on, Trav. Why? You shouldn't be surprised at this point.
Dude, turn off the Toothless with Kirstie Alley and watch Coco, bro. Come on.
Yo, Becca asked me. She said, "Have you seen Inside Out?" I said, "Nah, but it's on the list."
Inside Out is like a good to me, like an
No,
8 out
I
of 10.
wasn't talking about Inside Out. I was talking about Inside Pixar, the
I'm sorry.
documentary series.
The Inside Pixar is really good
Like
too. And
Inside Out is a good movie, but like I was talking specifically about that Inside Pixar because like that first episode, Kemp is talking directly about his experience working on Soul. So I was like, this is homework before the podcast.
I was
That's how
about
I
to say,
say it.
Kent Powers is incredible. So if y'all haven't seen One Night in Miami, which is a movie that Kent Powers wrote, I would check it out. It's really, really good.
Okay. All right.
So,
Check it out on Prime.
Becca, what would you give this movie? 1 out of 10.
I think I'd give it a 9. It's really close to a 10 for me. I think that um, the one thing that I talked about with one of my best friends is something I wish had been different is just the end credits. I feel like they could have done more with that. Like just even giving those hints of what his life might have been like afterwards. Like I don't need a sequel like you do. But if they would have just given him like little screenshots, kind of like how at the end credits of Lilo and Stitch, they have those like kind of snapshots of their life afterwards. Like I would have liked that. Something similar to that. I think my favorite like end credit scene is from WALL-E. I really like what they did with the animation and that art. As an artist and seeing that art history played out was something that meant a lot to me. So I was thinking about that. I was like, if that's my biggest complaint is that they didn't do enough with the end credits, I probably don't have any like big issues with this movie. Like, it's solid.
The message is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's hard to miss. It was pretty straightforward the whole way through, so we knew what they were doing. Yeah.
So what do you give it, D?
Oh, me. Give me a 7 out of 10. It was pretty good. I don't feel like many Pixar movies really like take it to 10 for me. Their messages are pretty clear. I think Pixar to me movies are a step down from Disney just because most Disney movies are more music oriented and they have a message and it's traditional artwork for me because and I don't know. I'll give it a 10 though. It wasn't terrible. Was it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I don't give it a 10 is because I feel like a 10 is a perfect. I don't think that there was anything wrong with the movie at all. I loved it. I could relate with it a lot with me being a professional wrestler and trying to reach goals that I set for myself, and just watching the movie, it just helped me realize that I just need to live my life to the fullest and just enjoy it. And sometimes go off on those small roads, because when you go off on the small roads, you might find something even better on them. So with that being said, don't laugh at me, Trav.
Hey, hang on, Banks. I got one lightning round for the guests.
Okay.
Can you give us your top 3 Pixar or Disney movies between the two? Top 3.
Okay, you have to specify because if we're going Pixar,
give me top 3 classic Disney movies.
Okay.
You talking about animation?
No, like movies.
Classic animation. Beauty and the Beast is my first.
Yeah.
Like I want to throw in Princess and the Frog in there because like it's still in that classic animation style, and it is one of those movies that I really like connected to. A Goofy movie has to be. A Goofy movie has to be in there. Like I feel like people don't tend to think of that in the classic Disney animation, old. But like
well, your boy does.
Jason Marsden, man. It's solid.
That's right.
But yeah, like Moana's not in the classic animation, hand-drawn animation style, but Moana would be up there with me.
Moana's a beast.
As far as like Disney, not Pixar, like that would be up there.
Okay. All right. Banks, you can take it away.
All right. Becca, thank you for joining us on today's episode. Before we let you go, tell everybody in social media land where they can find you at.
Okay, you can find me at River Moriarty on Instagram or Feathers and Song.
Cool. Trav, where can they find you at in social media land?
As you know, it's just that Instagram at ZK Audio.
D?
That's gonna be rebellious D or rebellious underscore D23 at Instagram.com.
Like, why don't y'all be having any energy when y'all are saying where they can find y'all? Like y'all are just so chill. It's like y'all need to
I mean,
like
because we chill, bro.
Yeah, man.
You know where to find me.
Yeah, this is your
can
show,
find-
man. Yeah, go
you
ahead.
gotta be.
I don't
hyped.
need to sit here and be like, and
Yeah,
it's
go
your number
show
one
us.
hero, your favorite superstar.
See, now that's the difference between you and me. Because when I do it, I always get hyped because you can find me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, at King Benji _ Banks on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find me on Facebook by typing in Benjamin Banks. I should be the first person that pops up. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. Make sure that you follow all of the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks social media accounts at Leveling Up Banks. And also, too, make sure that you like and subscribe this video. I forgot to say that in the intro, but please make sure that you like and subscribe. Leave some comments. Tell us what some of your favorite moments were from the movie. Give us some recommendations on other stuff that you want us to talk about and cover. We also have a Patreon. If you want to donate to us and you're feeling generous, it's at Leveling Up Banks. And also, make sure that you check out our podcast, the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast, where we release new episodes every Tuesday. Yeah. So that's it.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome. Yep. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope that everybody has a good day, and remember to always keep your pinky up.
Well, dude, it's 9:30 at night. Like, just...
like Trav, it's like
what you
it's
mean,
like
good
Trav,
day?
it's like you. It's like if somebody's filming a movie and they say good morning, everybody. Somebody on set's not gonna be like, oh well, it's 10 o'clock at night. What do you mean good morning?
You just ruined your whole like outro.
Yeah,
I know that's what I'm saying.
Everywhere.
Like this dude is like
we were already hold on, we were already done recording. This is just
no, we weren't. Like it's still going on.
It's still going on.
I'm leaving all of this in here. Like
okay. Oh, that's
exposure,
Playboy.
That's high.
It's like
I'm waiting to dog on you. Yeah, it's 9 at night.
Yeah, that's
all right,
you,
everybody.
Playboy.
Hey, have a good night, y'all.
Good night.